What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Brown Gent. I'm here with what will likely go down as my most important video of this cycle. I want to give you an understanding of everything that goes on up here, whether or not you agree with it, on what exactly that I want to do in this bull cycle. So I've always preached that having a plan is super important. A lot of the decisions I've made throughout all the videos I've done, all the decisions you've seen, come from this fundamental bedrock. Now, does that mean that this will be sort of your playbook and what you do? It's really up to you. It's a lot of this stuff is personal preference, things I've learned over previous cycles, and basically I'm here to maximize my gains. And if you look at the history of my channel, even during the last bull market, I'd like to think that I was pretty spot on about a lot of these things. Now, as the sort of nature of these kind of videos, they're not as popular because they don't instinctively tell you how to make money right away. But if you follow the principles in here, I believe you'll really set yourself up for this bull cycle. I go through everything from portfolios all the way to airdrops and prioritization, even mentioning some of the ways I've set things up, taking profit, all of that. Now, we're going to have a following AMA after the fact. So if you have any questions, make sure you tune in to AMA number 5. It'll be going on in about 40 minutes. So let's get started. As always, remember, nothing I say here is financial advice. Please do your own research because I'm just a guy on YouTube. And after looking at all this, you're still like, hey, I need extra coaching, guidance, and support. We do have a private group, the Web3 Secret Society. Everything that's sort of shown on here, I reinforce consistently within that group. We're actually going to start doing onboarding sessions where I will take a look personally at every single person's sort of situation and come up with a game plan for themselves. Obviously, find tweaks on this. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me at the BrownGent YT. I post a lot more on Twitter than I can post on YouTube, just, the nature of the content. So let's get started. Before we even talk about crypto and everything else, this is what the average person tries to do. And by that, I mean, they like to travel, they like to make money, whether it's a job, maybe you have 2 jobs, you have extra income streams. I know people who do for a full-time job and they work a couple hours, driving Uber on the weekend just to sort of, give them some more cash, right? There are people who love to go to the gym. I'm one of them. In fact, I'll be going to the gym later tonight, so we can't keep this going on too long. But whatever sort of physical activity, right, to keep you healthy. Obviously, sleeping is another big boon, and some sort of semblance of a social life, whether it's in person, seeing your friends, partying, hanging out with family, dating. It could be as simple as being part of a sort of gaming community online, whatever it is, right? We're social creatures. Super important. Now, what ends up happening is in the quest to make money, certain things tend to fall to the wayside. Obviously, it's not intentional, but what you'll find out is people start trading their time to try to make more money. So the thing you can't give up, obviously, is sleep because you can't function, and people will give up going out, hanging out with friends, traveling, being healthy. I've sort of done that on occasion in the past, trying to get a lot better at that now. But this is really what people focus on, especially in a crypto bull market. But eventually you give it long enough and there's just not enough time in the day to do everything. This is why I always preach it's super important to have a plan, to prioritize, because literally otherwise you're going to be sitting there going on wild goose hunts or wild goose chases, sort of spinning your wheels, never feeling like you're doing enough, always feeling like you're behind. And then you're just going to give up more and more time, and the sort of diminishing returns are just not worth it, right? I call it the Pareto principle. You got to focus on a few things that are going to deliver the majority of your results. So the actual truth here behind everything that I'm saying is that literally not all actions are created equally. And yes, I do have jet lag. This is sort of what I'm prioritizing because I promised you guys. But you got to prioritize. You really have to. Whether it's in crypto, whether it's stuff in your life, the reality is you just don't have the ability to do everything. Sometimes it could be money is a limiting factor, so you can't sort of, You can't go out to sort of like Italy this summer, as well as Vegas, as well as like Fiji, as well as like whatever other place you want to go to. I don't know why I named these. These are places I'm going. I just couldn't think of something. But same thing, right? Like you just can't afford to do everything. So what is it going to do? Maybe it's a time thing too. And that's sort of what we want to get into. Time and money are very limited resources for most of us. A lot of people like to give up their time. I like to make sure that you guys have balance. So let's make sure we prioritize. And I'm going to talk to you about how you can do that. So let's kick it off by talking about the 4-year crypto cycle. Every single time we get into this cycle, somebody or some people will come up there and say, oh my God, this time is different. Oh my God, this time, Bitcoin made it so on the news. People can take it seriously. It's no longer going to be a 4-year cycle. We're just going to keep going up. This time I'm hearing, oh my God, the ETFs are here. Oh, this 4-year cycle's not here. We're just going to keep skyrocketing. Listen, never believe people who tell you they've got it figured out. I have zero clue what's going to happen. But what I do know is this is all in the past. We study the past to make decisions on the future. Literally, does that mean it's going to be the same? You don't know, but it gives you some education to sort of help figure out what the sort of right path is. So in the last 3 cycles, at least, we saw a 3-year sort of incremental growth, then 1 year sort of kind of like collapsing, 3 years of growth, 1 year collapsing once again. And the sad part is you see how big these gains are, but mentally, because most people tend to buy in at the top or near the top, they ride down this massive wave that ends up making them losers in the long run. So number one goal here is you want to make sure you're active in the bull market and you're passive in the bear. And passive in the bear doesn't mean that, you're doing nothing, but you just don't want to be sitting there with hopium. That's literally what causes people a ton of money. It's the actual worst. And guys, please, if you guys have questions on all these other things that we're going to talk about, please ask them in the AMA, and then I'll make sure I answer them for you. Okay? We're literally having it in about 30 minutes. Okay? So the bull market strategy, this is what it looks like. So the first part was already done, but I talked about it. Most people didn't watch the channel because obviously crypto wasn't popular, right? It wasn't popping off until probably November, December. But even like July, August, I was talking about how I was stacking Bitcoin, stacking Ethereum. On Twitter, I was posting about 1.5 years ago, November 22, how I was buying Bitcoin at $18,000 and how future me would be happy. And well, here I am, super happy. But the whole goal is to sort of stack Bitcoin and Ethereum early as soon as you've seen massive drawdowns, right? So that was sort of the plan. Check. We're already past that stage. The next part, and you see the loading sort of image there, and there are 3 different things I do. The first thing is to invest into crypto tokens. So that doesn't mean just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but I want to make sure that 80% of my portfolio is high conviction. And high conviction is not just myself, but the rest of the market as well. So for example, a high conviction play is Solana. A high conviction play is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Matic, the stuff you see in the top 10, like BNB, right? Like the big ones, right? What it is not. And it's like you can be as convicted as you want in this. But for example, Jewel from DeFi Kingdoms, it might be a high conviction to you. This is not what I would consider a high conviction. Like if you were to give this to a bank, would a bank go, yeah, that's good collateral? That's sort of what I mean here. So, that's what, Jewel was one example, not to say it's not good. It's just not widely accepted. The same thing with a ton of other tokens. So, I can mention Jewel because that's the one I sort of know, and the one I still think is okay, not now, but I think it'll be good or have some potential, but it's not a high conviction play. It's not one that someone would say, oh, you got $1 million in this token, let me give you a loan. Okay. So that's the plan. Invest in those crypto tokens. 20% can go into stuff like that though. So 20% of your portfolio can end up being tokens like that, Doge, memes, whatever, right? All those things. And there'll be a time and a place to make that switch. Every time, however, that you make profit, every time you want to sort of stack your profit in a bull market, you're actually doing yourself a disservice for the most part to put it into stables. And the reason for that is the rising tide of a bull market will sort of rise all ships. Ethereum sort of is being the fundamental layer for all of this. Now, I know some people don't like Ethereum. If you feel that way, that strongly, you don't want to touch it, maybe Solana is probably a better choice for you to pick. Obviously, you can't pick Bitcoin because Bitcoin typically will cost you too much to sort of put it on the native Bitcoin network. I try as much as possible in bull markets to not have any bridge token. So, for example, while I have Ethereum, I don't store Ethereum just on ETH mainnet where the gas is infinite. I store it on Arbitrum because if something happens, it's not bridged. I'm good. So you want to make sure it's a native token and not a bridge token, because a bridge token puts you at significant risk outside your control. And the reason for that is when you have a bridge token in your account, if a bridge gets hacked, the bridge token you hold is an IOU. You literally lose all value, or the value gets diminished so much, it's horrible and it's outside your control. And I've seen too many of this happen to even let myself risk that. Okay, it's hard enough in this market without all the extrinsic factors screwing you over. The other thing I do is also I focus on creating a sustainable airdrop strategy. That means that like most of my airdrops are done with me sort of sitting back, going do my own thing. And then there are some where I'll have to be a little more active. Examples where I'm a little more active are things like Pixel, where I played the play to earn campaign for 2 weeks. Things where I'm playing like Linnea Park, the Voyage, or the new Voyage, let's call it, where I'm getting some LXP. ZK Sync, Layer 0, etc. Just doing this sort of fundamental work to build up my volume, transactions, etc. on there. Once again, when I get airdrops, I try to sell on, most of the time I sell 75 to 100% of the airdrop, except for the cases where I believe the technology is so superior, in the case of Dimension with the roll apps, where I actually held on to 75%. But with AltLayer, I have completely sold out. And a lot of other airdrops I've completely sold out. Once again, rotating it into ETH. And finally, there's no point making a ton of money if you literally lose it all. So my goal here is to sell at least 80% of crypto before the cycle is over. Likely trying to sell as much as possible, but obviously, we don't want to be fully out in case there's a moonshot. But at a minimum, 80% of my crypto is out. I'm going to be sort of good no matter what happens. I think that will have me covered. So the whole premise of this is, in the bull market, your one goal, and you got to repeat this to yourself, your goal is to stay alive and in the game. If you're not in the game, if you're out because you made some stupid moves, if you listen to those idiot influencers and shorted the market, well, you may be out of luck. The same thing why I try not to use leverage as much as possible. I'm going to make a video on how to use leverage properly and a little more in a muted fashion, and how you can use that to earn airdrops. But that's for a future video. I obviously don't have the time today to do that. That being said, please avoid degenning out. Why would you want to degen out and do all this stuff? You guys have a once in a lifetime opportunity, or not once in a lifetime, but it's getting close to being one of the last few sort of bull cycles. And in this situation where you know how much ETH and Bitcoin can be worth, why would you want to gamble on some garbage? It's just stupid. It's just stupid. And that's why, going back to sort of the fundamental thing, 80% high conviction, and that'll pay for any of those like lesser moves or startup companies that you're wanting to invest in. So this is a slide that I want to show you guys that here's how I've set up my wallet. So many people have asked me exactly what do I do. So I like to have what I call bank wallets, hot wallets, and burner wallets. So I have multiple bank wallets. And what a bank wallet is it's a wallet, and it's sort of protected by a hardware device. I'm going to talk about hardware device in a second. But basically, the purpose of this bank wallet is to literally send and receive funds from my hot wallets. It never connects to a protocol. It never sort of does any sort of transacting. Even if I would get a airdrop that I can go to a claim website on here, I do not do it. And the reason for that is I am not signing anything. I am not increasing risk. I'm just sort of leaving it out there. So that is literally its purpose. I have multiple of these, and every single one of these has a specific hardware device. I have chosen Ledger for one reason. Ledger works on the most number of chains and has the most number of tokens. It's easy to transport, so you can take it with you as you travel around the world. I have a lattice. The thing is a little, I'm just gonna unplug this. This thing is a literal box. Like, imagine me trying to take this with you or take this with me on a plane somewhere. Like, it's just gonna be brutal. At the same time, it only has the EVM or Ethereum virtual machine tokens. It doesn't have IBC. It can't do Solana, right? I've had a Trezor, same thing. I just don't like it. It's very limited. I've even used a Keystone. That thing is absolute trash. Avoid that. Like, don't even buy their utilities. I bought a Keystone seed phrase holder. The clasp didn't hold. It messed up the entire seed phrase. So I just moved everything off that wallet because I didn't have my seed phrase anymore because I literally put it in there. So I would do a Ledger. If you're interested, I do have an affiliate code below. You don't have to use it, obviously, but I like the Nano X right now. I know they have another one in the works, but it's sold out. The Nano X is incredible. That's the one I would select. So that's my bank wallets, okay? So now you have these. The next stage is getting closer to the protocols. And when you're interacting with DeFi protocols, this is where you're signing transactions, you're entering all these like protocols, you're minting things, all that. Once again, I like to have this under a hardware device because most of the time I'm going to have one main wallet here. And the reason for that is a lot of protocols are looking at your history. If you're creating a new wallet for each of these things, you're not going to have a history. They're trying to find a way to filter out Cybils, right? So Cybil is, fake bots that are sort of farming airdrops. And the whole goal here is I only put funds on here to either, flip NFTs or earn airdrops and things like that. Whenever I'm trading, I will take money from the bank wallet, send it here, do the trade, then send it back. That's sort of one of the examples that I use it for. Even still, this should have a hardware device because you're going to have funds. So where I farm ZK Sync, I farm it through this wallet. I call it a sort of hot wallet, but it's kind of not. But it's more hot than sort of my bank wallet, which doesn't touch anything, right? So that's sort of the way I approach all of this. Finally, there will be some sketchier protocols. And I think in those cases, just get the burner wallets because you just don't want to risk it, because you still don't want to risk any of the funds that are sitting on the sort of protocol wallet. So I hope that sort of makes sense. Now, I do have some safety rules that I think you should all take into account. Number one, anytime you have significant money on a wallet, significant is relative to your own assessment, I would use a hardware device. I think Ledger is the gold standard. My next thing is do not download anything outside your wallet, at least on the computers that you are using for your crypto. So for example, MetaMask, Rabby, Phantom, Kepler, Compass, Lether, all those wallets are fine. Don't go out there and download other things. With the advent of Linear Park, they ask you to download some games. That's a strict pass by me because I will never download anything because they're not going to be responsible. They're not going to send me money if something happens and they get compromised. Speaking of which, don't ever open strange links and bookmark sites you frequent. That reduces the risk heavily of you getting screwed. Remember, your bank wallet will never be jeopardized if you follow these rules. These rules are really to protect your hot wallet, right? It goes without saying, whenever you create a wallet and you have your seed phrase, please do not put it in your computer. Please do not write it down. Don't take a photo of it. And when I say don't write it down in like a notepad. Write it down on a paper. Put it somewhere safe. You do not want to do anything else. In fact, if you have the option to add a 25th word to your seed phrase, please do it because it enhances your security even further. Okay. And finally, I know a lot of people, they are in a rush. Crypto Grady mentioned a few weeks ago that he got drained because he was in a rush taking care of his kids, saw a link to an airdrop, lost $10,000. This is sort of a story as old as time. You want to make sure when you're doing your crypto that you're not sitting here and just going, oh, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. If you ever feel like you're rushing yourself, say, hey, you know what? Either this is not important or I'm going to prioritize it. It's one of the two. And if you want something to help you out with what's going on, remember, I'm not affiliated. I don't get anything for talking about this, but this has protected, myself and a bunch of my friends in crypto. Wallet Guard literally will tell you, like, let's say you click on one of those wrong sites or something. at least the times I've seen it, it will literally say, hey, sorry, this is a suspected drainer. And it will even highlight to you whenever you're signing anything, what is being asked to be removed from your wallet. You can do scans. Step one, make sure that you have the latest up-to-date wallet on your computers, as well as sort of making sure that you don't have any sort of contract signed that has some funds that a protocol can pull, right? Because sometimes protocols get, they get, hacked or whatever, and you want to make sure that if that happens, you're not compromised. The same thing goes to Twitter. You can follow the right account on Twitter. In fact, I saw Layer Bank. So Layer Bank's a really good example. Layer Bank has not come through for anyone on Manta, and now they're saying, "Oh, well, talk to Manta," after they've done nothing. Like Layer Bank used all this to sort of advertise their services. They got hacked. Their Twitter was putting out some sort of weird link, and I think I don't know how many people got affected because after they actually posted that correction, they deleted all of it. I actually, just so you guys know, a quick aside, I would never touch a Layer Bank anymore because they've shown they literally have no credibility, zero whatsoever. Like, I can't believe that they posted that their Twitter was compromised, etc. And then just for bad publicity reasons, they just deleted that tweet after, which is, you never want to do that because that was on them. That was a security oversight on their part, and people were affected. I don't know how many people lost funds because of it, but this is why you want to have something like this, because even if you do everything right, the protocol screws up and they may send you somewhere that could get you hurt. And just so you guys know, if Layer Bank ever says that they have Manta token for you guys, they probably got hacked because it seems like they're never going to do that. The other thing you can do as well is get Rabi Wallet. Rabi Wallet is my favorite wallet. It doesn't apply to every chain. It usually takes a lot longer for it to show up, but I believe it's really worth it. Those who've tried it really do enjoy it. It's got a ton of features. It tells you, one example that came up tonight was it tells you if you've already interacted with a contract. It optimizes the gas for you. You can sort of do gas top-ups, and they even have an airdrop program for Rabi points. The Brown Gent is my code if you want to use it. Don't feel like you have to. And this was actually made by a protocol called the bank. So the bank actually lets you see everything in your wallet or others. So this is the wallet that I have for my, my so-called hot wallet. And you can literally click on Ethereum here, and it tells me where all the ETH is stored on chain. Where is it? ETH here. So if I click Ethereum here, it shows me all the stuff. So I think it's pretty cool. If you click on this, it shows you transactions. We'll just wait for this to load. So you can see that here. So you can see I minted on Linea to earn some LXP earlier. But it's pretty cool. What you can do, which is really neat, is you can actually go down here and see all the token values by stages. And one of the things that you'll see, and somebody found this out in our Web3 Secret Society, was they got the airdrop for Optimism but had no idea. But it showed up on here and they were like, wow, I just made like $400. So, it's really nice because it shows you everything, including like liquidity pools you're in. So I can see here on SyncSwap, I got like $60 sitting here. So I'll never forget about it. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you just forget when you do all these airdrop things. So pretty cool. So the next stage here I want to talk about is the difference between your bag and airdrops and sort of what the goal is. So I mentioned this before, but for your crypto portfolio, focus on around 5-ish high impact tokens that will make up 80% of the value. The reason for this is going to be the fundamental piece that will sort of drive your value. It will not make 100x. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to make significant profits. I think we're happy with like 5 to 10x on a lot of these, Bitcoin, not really. Ethereum can likely go 4x from here, for example, not financial advice. But back when it was $2,000, I think it could have easily made a 7.5x. And that was sort of the narrative that I expected. The last 20% is where you expect higher returns, obviously comes with more risk. So this is sort of up to you and your personal preference and sort of the tokens you like to hold. The one thing I will say to you, though, is when you are doing your crypto portfolio, we all know how, number one, Bitcoin with the ETF has really cemented itself. But Ethereum has a potential ETF, and it is considered number 2. It hasn't changed in a long time. Solana is really coming up, and really making a case for the strong number 3 consistently. But for any token that you select, you really should believe that it will outperform both of these tokens. If you selected a token that you thought would 2x, my question to you is, why wouldn't you just get Ethereum? Because like Ethereum is sort of way safer. Ethereum is sort of very well known. And I would rather have that than a token that you think is going to 2 or 3x, because I think Ethereum will do more than that in this cycle. So it all comes down to your own conviction again, and sort of ask yourself that question. Whatever I'm looking at getting, do I think it's going to do better than these will from this time point? That should be your first thing. Don't forget that we have a sort of crypto money flow cycle. I actually hate how people in sort of the crypto verse will take this chart and put their own Twitter handle next to it when it's not even their chart. It's a chart you can find. I forget where it was, but it was on Google. And what happens, and we've seen this happen in the cycle, is you go from your cash money in real life to Bitcoin, and this time is even more so with the Bitcoin ETFs. Obviously, when all this happens, there is always a sort of pull on the other tokens. So we saw Ethereum and the other tokens do well. But what will happen is eventually the Bitcoin reaches a certain level, and it really won't move as much. And you already know the Bitcoin market cap is significant. So it takes much more to move its price. Whereas the other tokens, the same amount of money will move the price so much more significantly. So after Bitcoin, we expect to see the next 3, Ethereum, BNB, and Solana, do really well. Once that has saturated, then the mid caps, the small caps, back to Bitcoin, back to fiat. And this repeats the cycle again and again. What I want to sort of bring up here, and this is really important because I've gone back and forth with a bunch of people over the last 2 weeks. There's a reason that I've taken profit on a ton of my altcoins. The inflows to the Bitcoin ETF are substantial. But people love to shout, oh my God, it's alt season, it's alt season, it's alt season. Alt season comes near the end of the cycle, not at the start. If you guys have been in the alt tokens, right? Most of them dropped around 90% from the end of the last cycle to the bottom of the last cycle, right? So from the top to the bottom, about 90%. But people are so rushing to get in here because people have this mentality of, well, I want to sort of get a token that's going to 1000x my money. And there's a time and place for it. I've already just showed you the cycle, right? But people will get in there and just tell you, oh, this token's going to be amazing. You need to get there. And yes, will the token go up? For sure. Everything goes up. You could literally make a stupid token tomorrow and it will go up overall. But you want to build something that is going to do well in those sort of longer period of time, because a lot of times these tokens are sort of moving up with the fluctuations of this space, and you really, really need to plan that out. And the reason I say this is a ton of people will come up here and say, hey, buy this token, and they may be doing this from a good place because they truly think it's going to do well. But just remember something, even as innocent as this can be, most of the time they already have their position. So people who buy in after them, it's almost like a layer of padding or protection. And I've had this happen to me before as well. I remember when I first started in this cycle, 2017, 2016, I bought something first, then I bought XRP. But the first token I bought, my buddy told me to buy it. And then after, he's like, well, you should have done your own research. I'm like, well, you're the one who told me to buy it. But this is why I always say to you guys, don't just listen to what I say. I'm telling you what I want, what I think, what I've learned. It's up to you guys how you choose to implement this. The next thing I want to talk about for you guys is prioritizing airdrops. Prioritizing airdrops is so important. So this is sort of like the graph that I use. And one of the things that I will tell you guys is you'll see this in a lot of real life situations, right? A lot of times when you make decisions, it's like, well, what's the likelihood? What's the impact of in this case it's value, but maybe it could be risk mitigation. Obviously, it doesn't take a genius to say, well, it might be useful for us to go for the highest likelihood, highest impact. It gets hard to figure that out. Sometimes protocols will tell you these are incentivized. So if we think about something like an incentivized testnet, it's probably high likelihood, but low impact. I don't know why I put high impact on it. It should be likelihood or impact, not high on each. And obviously, like the top parts of it are the high, and the closer to the center is low. So basically, an incentivized test net would be like this. Then you could have like the fuel test net, which now we know the new one's incentivized, but the old one that people were doing all these transactions on, low likelihood, low impact. Literally the worst thing you want to do. Something like ZK Sync, we know it's going to be on this side. Whether it's high, medium, or low likelihood, we don't know. I would sort of venture it's in this area, and this is sort of where I have it. That's sort of why I think about it this way. The one thing I do want to say, I saw somebody in the chat say that they're going to download all the Linear Park games in a virtual machine. Dude, you are literally playing with fire. I hope you don't get in trouble, but please don't come up on Twitter after calling things a scam because you chose to not listen. There are way better ways to earn LXP than to earn 30 LXP for downloading a potential virus onto your computer. This is what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about like weighing pros and cons, you guys have got to get a lot better at doing that. Like, it's just not worth it. Like, I don't understand. So when we look at prioritizing airdrops, the most important thing here is your liquidity. Do not lock it up unless you're being paid significantly. This is why I chose to skip Hydro Finance. In fact, right after I did that, that's the next day, Stride Celestia popped off, got in there, got out of it by swapping through osmosis, made a bunch of money in the future whenever the Stride token, I have 5 months when I will get it. When you are staking with validators, make sure you stay focused on your highest conviction or the tokens where you've historically seen be paid well. Celestia is a very good example. We've seen a ton of money there. We also saw a ton of money being paid in the Solana ecosystem as well. Solana. And then finally, guys, content creators, they have a completely different objective than you. Most content creators are not making money off airdrops. They're making money off farming views. That's just a reality. That's why they'll never make a video like this because they won't make money off it. But if they made a video saying, oh my God, 10x airdrop, under farm, make sure you get in, 20,000 views. And they just send you some BS that anybody could sort of do, and they have zero clue if it'll work, but they're just making up things for the most part. In fact, there's just way too many things out there that you'll never be able to do all of them. Make sure you focus on this chart. The other thing I will say is, somebody in our private group mentioned this earlier. They'll make money off airdrops and they'll blow it on a ton of transactions doing a bunch of useless things. And this is why you've sort of got to go back to this chart. What's the impact likelihood? What's the impact and what's the likelihood? And then do that. I've already sort of told you guys so many times. ZK Sync, Layer 0, Scroll, Linea. These are the things that are worth it. Going out there and doing these logX trade things are just not worth it. They're just not at all. They just cost you a ton of fees, and you end up wasting your time as well. Yes, if you got all the money in the world, you want to spec on it, go for it. My thing here is you don't want to be giving back the money you make from airdrops by paying stupid fees. Make sure you are optimizing your gas. This is why I like Rabby Wallet, and make sure you're not just following their herd doing a bunch of garbage. So that's sort of the way I look at all of this. You really, really, really need to make sure you're prioritizing the right things. So for you guys as an update, here are the stake drops or the staking things that I have currently. So as you guys know, I have ETH, 5 Ethereum staked to Eigenlayer, 3 in this wallet, 2 in another. I stake Celestia, Dimension, and Atom within Kepler. So these are Kepler validators. The one thing I will say is I have, as of yesterday, unstaked Injective. I also have Matic staked because they have most of their circulating supply out there. They won't be diluted like Arbitrum, like we were talking about at the start of this video. I have some Pyth staked. I think I have 1400. That's also important to me because of all the overreach they have with their price aggregation models. And finally, I have Ronin staked because of, I take profit on the Pixels chain or the Ronin chain, for example. And they seem to be rewarding stakers of that with a ton of tokens. So seems worth it to me. Now, when you're prioritizing airdrops, here are the ones, if you're not sure, that I would recommend for this cycle. ZK Sync, Layer 0, Linea, Scroll, tons more. But this is what I would get started with if I were you. Remember, not financial advice. Whatever you're prioritizing, I always say, make sure you join the Discord and follow them on Twitter for all projects. One really nice benefit of following things on Twitter, when you see the scam things come up, all you got to do is put your mouse over the handle and it will tell you if you're following them. And that will also be another good sign in a way you can just know if it's fake or not. Because a lot of Twitter profiles, they'll change like an L to an I or whatever, or like the weird like line that's vertical. So it's harder to tell. Obviously, you can tell from the way they communicate and like it just looks weird. But just put your mouse over. If you follow everything you do on Twitter, you'll be following them. Also, I would just keep a log of everything you're doing so you don't get confused, and you can also prioritize or deprioritize as needed. Other activities you can do is, you can get into yield farms like LPs, liquidity pools. You can do test nets. Remember, like I said, the reason I don't have test nets as a priority is because it's such a low thing there, right? It may be the likelihood can swing back and forth, but the impact is always low. The impact is never high on a test net because it's just overfarmed and they don't give out much. NFT flipping is the other thing you can do. You can pick up whitelists from Discords, get in early, flip those NFTs, make a ton of money. The goal here, once again, is not to get stuck with these, because a lot of these NFT projects, the first few days, there's tons of momentum and then it dies off and people are held with the bag. And the final step to all of this is exiting the market, because I saw a chart somewhere that said, like, I think it was around 80 to 85% of people lose money in a bull market. And I don't want that to be you. So as we get through all of this, the most important thing to know is when it's time to leave, you can't be messing around. You've just got to leave. You really don't want to mess with this. And there are some telltale signs that you'll see. These aren't the only signs. I'm sure there'll be more. But you'll see crypto narrative at the all-time highs. I think you guys remember, and you've seen it in South Park, fortune favors the bold, right? Matt Damon, you see things, all these crypto ads on YouTube. You'll see tons of people watching videos, right? You'll see like ads, placements being very expensive. In fact, you'll see people in your regular life who never talk about crypto going, oh my God, do you see Bitcoin's at $100,000? Should I get in? All that. Like when my mom asked me if she should buy some Bitcoin, it's the time for me to get out. Or to start looking at the door. The other thing you'll start seeing is Bitcoin prevalence is coming down, right? The dominance, and you're seeing it start to dump, and you see altcoins mooning. And, like they'll moon like 20 to 30% plus each day. And it's going to feel like it'll never end and you can never lose. In fact, this euphoria is exactly the time that is the best to leave. Because what will happen is when this is going on, that alt run never lasts too long. So when the alt run starts, that's where I'll be looking to take majority of my profits by then. And then the rest I keep in, which will likely be in alts, I will be selling off portions as it scales up. Because your goal here is you do not want to get screwed. And basically at this stage, you don't want to take profits in Ethereum. You want to make sure you're focused on getting this into your stable coins, whether it's USDC, USDT, DAI, whatever. So I like to diversify because when the market dumps, there's a sort of kind of pattern we saw. The last time the market came down significantly, Gemini, Celsius, BlockFi, all of these protocols that made really stupid bets just started going under. So if you had money on centralized exchanges, you got destroyed, right? Some of them, you just lost all your funds, right? Hard to withdraw and everything else like that. You want to front run this by either keeping the fiat on chain or withdrawing it to your centralized exchange before all of this happens and taking it into cold, hard cash. When these things happen, when these protocols crash, there's a chance that there can be a depeg in something like Tether or Circle, USDC. So this is why it's very important to stay diversified, because it's not just having it in stables, it's making sure you're protected. And the higher we go, the more degenerate activity happens. It's always these centralized exchanges that do these things, right? It's always these companies that do these. But somehow crypto gets a bad name, but it's the same old machine, the same old banking system that has been causing all the problems. One of the things I like to do, and if you do go to the casino, people at casino love to hold their money in crypto. It makes it easier to travel with. It makes it easier to buy into tournaments. It makes it easier, like all around. That's what I heard from so many people. And you can go and actually sort of buy, sell crypto there, and you avoid the fees, you avoid a bunch of the other nonsense. Obviously, you want to make sure you find people on the up and up and do the transaction almost like an escrow. This is sort of kind of what I always recommend that you guys do. And finally, once you're out, just stay out. Like, the worst that can happen, I can sort of give you an idea of what happened last time. When Ethereum was like 4,300 or 4,400, I sort of posted that I was getting like pretty much completely out. I had some people listen to me and then later tell me, oh my God, I think you were wrong. Ethereum went to 4,700. So they went back in, and then it dumped like a day or two later to like 4,000. Then they said, oh, I'm going to hold it because I think it's going to come back up. And I don't think they ever got out. I mean, hopefully, usually in situations like that, I think they get out at the bottom after just saying, oh my God, it's 1,200. It's going to go down even more. Just guys, like, we're never going to time the exact top and the exact bottom. You just want to make sure like you get as much out of the move as possible. And then once you're done, exit, walk away. You won the game. You've won. You don't need to go back. If you go back, you just increase the chances of you losing. You can come back here, and next time we're ready to start the cycle, go out there, enjoy your life, enjoy your profits. I don't want to see people coming back to the well being greedy, because that's what it all is, and that greed will cost you. So I hope that sort of explained my entire overarching strategy for the next 18 or so months in this cycle. If you were like, hey, this is too much, and I'm like, oh my God, well, we do have a private group. The Patreon is a lot cheaper as well per month. And this private group will exist all the way to the end of the bull market. That's the other thing. The moment the bull market is coming to an end, literally we're closing down. And that's probably your best signal to know, hey, maybe I should get out and stay out. And I'm going to be very critical on people to say, hey, just a reminder, this is what's going on. And here's the thing. So if you want sort of that like-minded group and sort of have all of that, check it out. We've got the extra coaching, guidance, and support. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. It took me a lot of time to make these slides. Like, literally, I went out there and just built all these over the last couple of days while I was in Europe and everything like that. So please, if you did enjoy the video, please show your appreciation. Like the video. Please share the video with people that you know. Super important to me to continue getting the engagement. We'll see you on the AMA. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.